The National Desk, America's News Now.
This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David, and we begin with breaking news. Chaos breaking out amidst celebration. Up to 15 people were shot and at least one killed in downtown Kansas City near Union Station, just as the Chiefs rally celebrating their Super Bowl win was coming to a close. Police took 2 armed suspects into custody. It is not known what the severity of their injuries are, or what led up to this shooting. With very little answers, we're hearing from Chiefs players. Quarterback Patrick Mahomes on X saying that he is, quote, praying for Kansas City.
We were here for a safe celebration, and because of 2 bad actors or more, it is why we're standing here today. We will recover as a city.
And we will continue following this breaking news all evening as law enforcement works to determine a motive and learn about the condition of the remaining victims. Stay with us both on air and online at thenationaldesk.com. Also breaking tonight, the United States facing a serious national security threat, possibly in the form of Russian nukes in space. Sources who have seen the intelligence have confirmed to CNN that the threat is related to Russia and called the information, quote, very sensitive. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan declined to talk on what this could mean at a briefing today, but ABC reports it could have something to do with placing nuclear weapons in space in an effort to attack other satellites. The Intel chairman urged President Biden to declassify all information related so that Congress, as well as the administration and our allies, can, quote, openly discuss the actions necessary to respond. The ranking member of the Intelligence Committee, Democrat Jim Hines, said the administration does need to address the issues in the medium to long run, though House Speaker Mike Johnson said there is no need for panic.
I saw Chairman Turner's statement on the issue, and I want to assure the American people there is no need for public alarm. We are going to work together to address this matter, as we do all sensitive matters that are classified.
Tomorrow, the administration will meet with leaders of both the Senate and the House to discuss the matter. And tonight, the Northeast still cleaning up from a nor'easter that slammed the region yesterday, with residents now bracing for more snow. Another winter storm is heading east, first bringing heavy snow to the northern plains, upper Midwest and Great Lakes today into tomorrow. Some areas could get more than 8 inches. The storm will quickly move into the Northeast on Friday, bringing moderate snow, with some of the highest totals expected in New York. The now impeached Alejandro Mayorkas, still Secretary of Homeland Security tonight, and will remain so unless the Senate convicts him on either of the 2 articles of impeachment the House voted on, which is highly unlikely. 11 Republican Congress members will now serve as impeachment managers to lay out their case in the Senate. But don't expect a trial to start immediately. The Senate is currently on recess, making the earliest a trial could start February 26th. But it's also possible the Democrat-controlled legislature could bypass the trial altogether with a simple majority vote, or send the impeachment to an evidentiary committee, which would stall the process for the rest of the calendar year. According to NBC, Immigration and Customs Enforcement is now forecasting a budget shortfall of over $500 million and could run out of money by May unless Congress takes action. Other areas of the Department of Homeland Security, including Customs and Border Protection, face similar shortfalls. A bipartisan Senate bill that failed would have given DHS more than $15 billion, but critics said it was short on security measures Republicans had asked for. All of this puts the foreign aid bill that did pass the Senate in limbo in the House.
Much more has to be done, of course, to secure the border. And what the Senate produced this week is silent on that issue. Senator McConnell and I have spoken about this in frank sessions, and let me be clear here again this morning. The Republican-led House will not be jammed or forced into passing a foreign aid bill that was opposed by most Republican senators and does nothing to secure our own border.
But the foreign aid bill featuring billions of dollars for Ukraine, Israel, and aid in Gaza is not dead yet. NBC is reporting that Speaker Mike Johnson wants to sit with President Joe Biden and discuss this one-on-one. But the administration just wants the House to pass the bill.
I think the speaker doesn't understand what it is that his job is. Put that bill to the floor. Put that bill to the floor. It will get bipartisan support.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin now working to build support for Ukraine's defense against Russia. He spoke at the 19th meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group this morning. In front of leaders from nearly 50 nations, he pledged that the group will strengthen the coalitions for Ukraine's long-term survival.
Each of these coalitions underscores our unity and resolve to help Ukraine and to confront Russian aggression.
Austin says the outcome of Ukraine's fight will help define global security for decades. He also says he's in good condition following a brief hospital stay from Sunday to Tuesday. Police say the suspect who shot 3 police officers this morning is still barricaded inside a home in Washington, D.C. Police Chief Pamela Smith says the officers were serving an arrest warrant for a report of cruelty to animals. Officers tried to make contact, but the suspect refused to come outside. They're asking residents to avoid the area as the suspect has been shooting from the inside.
Still an active scene. We're still gathering additional information. We do not know who the individual is at this time. I don't even know how many dogs are in the home. But what I will say is this is unacceptable.
Officers don't know what type of cruelty was reported. The 3 officers were hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries. A 4th officer suffered a minor injury, not gun-related. Hospitals are becoming more vulnerable to cyber attacks as they move most of their processes online. Cybersecurity experts argue most of the attackers are in Russia, North Korea, and Iran, enjoying big payouts with very little punishment. Microsoft reporting about 46 cyber attacks on hospitals last year when compared with 25 the year before. Experts say the U.S. government should ban hospitals from paying ransom. The rising cost of living is keeping more young adults living at home with their parents. From inflation to student debt to skyrocketing home prices, entering adulthood looks a lot different for millennials and Gen Z than it did for their parents. National correspondent Atral Nashar with more.
For young adults, hitting life's milestones is getting farther and farther out of reach. What it takes to move out, get married, have kids, retire, has millennials and Gen Z commiserating.
Since everything's become so expensive, truly we have not done anything outside of just pay for our needs.
The wages, they don't match the increase in pricing at all. So I don't want to hear y'all say we're lazy and we're entitled.
The system that has been built up to this point is now no longer working for the middle class.
Even being part of the middle class can seem unattainable when it's hard enough to leave home. 56% of young adults between 18 and 24 lived with their parents in 2023, according to the latest census data. Now, to put that into historical context, toward the end of the Great Depression in 1940, that number was 48%, though back then they counted adults up to 29 years old. But these days, according to Bankrate, more than 2/3 of parents with adult children say that they've made a financial sacrifice to help out their kids.
The most common sacrifice is parents dipping into their emergency savings.
Living at home can help to pay off student loans. Bankrate recently found 59% of adults who have or had student debt say it forced them to delay a financial milestone.
Gen Zers say that they're most likely to delay buying a car because of their student debt. For millennials, they say they're most likely to be delaying buying a house and also adding to their emergency savings.
High rent also getting in the way.
We started out at $1,260 and went to $1,800, and that was within a year.
Home prices often just as bad, rising 2.5 times the rate of inflation over the past 50 years, according to the Federal Reserve. Tuition, childcare, the cost of throwing a wedding also rising faster than inflation and wages, making it difficult to strive for a better life than their parents had when it's all young adults can do just to keep up. In Washington, I'm Atral Nashar for the National Desk, America's News Now.
Atra, thank you. And coming up, Republicans' latest plan to go after President Biden as his mental fitness is called into question. Then the device federal investigators say all planes should be retrofitted with to improve safety. And later, why many Washington families are leaving their deceased relatives' bodies unclaimed. We'll tell you on the other side. We're back in just 90 seconds. At least one person is dead in northern Israel from a rocket attack presumed to be launched by Hezbollah, a political party and militant group in Lebanon's south. The attack prompting Israeli fighter jets to launch extensive strikes on South Lebanon this morning. A Lebanese security source telling AFP that those airstrikes killed 4 Lebanese civilians, including a woman and her 2 children, while injuring 9 others. The two sides have been trading fire almost daily since Israel's war with Hamas erupted in October. Hezbollah is seeking to put pressure on Israel to retreat from Gaza as fears mount over a widening war. Meantime, in Gaza, Israel continues its military campaign in Rafah, where the UN is now warning of, quote, a slaughter as Israel prepares a full ground assault in the region. The town is one of the last places Palestinians have left to shelter after they were told to evacuate in the north of the Strip. One Palestinian man describing the fear.
Last night was really terrible. We lived in terror as if it were doomsday. There was gunfire in every direction, and we had nowhere to go. They told us this area was safe. They told us Rafah was safe.
Israel said Tuesday that it rescued 2 hostages in Rafah, and the operation must continue to find remaining hostages and Hamas fighters. The Gaza Health Ministry, run by Hamas, says more than 28,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israel's campaign launched after the October 7th Hamas terror attack. Health authorities there do not differentiate between civilians and combatants. Hamas authorities say the vast majority killed are women and children. This as the U.S. now investigates whether Israel has misused American-made bombs and missiles in Gaza, ultimately killing civilians in what could amount to war crimes. According to the Wall Street Journal, the U.S. is investigating several Israeli airstrikes. Israel won't say whether it will cooperate with the U.S. investigation, but denies any misuse of weapons. U.S. officials have so far ruled out putting conditions on arms transfers to pressure Israel, but the investigation could result in new conditions being set. New polling by ABC News and Ipsos shows an overwhelming majority of Americans believe President Biden is too old for a second term. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins joining us from Capitol Hill with more on how Republicans are capitalizing on that.
House Republicans reportedly hatching a plan to ensure Americans don't soon forget President Biden's slew of forgetful moments.
There's been a response from there's been a response.
The strategy appearing to be in action Wednesday, with House Speaker Mike Johnson hammering the point Biden was not charged in the classified documents case, in part because he would likely be presented to a jury as a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
A man too incapable of being held accountable for mishandling classified information is certainly unfit for the Oval Office. And everyone in this room, if you just ask yourself that question, you will come to the same conclusion.
GOP-led hearings on Biden's mental fitness, including subpoenas, are in the works, according to reporting by Axios. Many top Democrats coming to his defense.
I spent a lot of time with President Biden, be it in the Oval Office, in the Situation Room. He is extraordinarily smart.
Did anyone film that? If you're telling us behind the scenes he is sharp and full of energy and on top of it and really in control and leading, you should film that.
The Biden campaign going on the offensive with attack ads on Trump's age and his moments of appearing confused.
He got confused and said he was running against Obama.
And we did with Obama. We won an election that everyone said couldn't be won.
Despite efforts by the left to flip the script, a new ABC Ipsos poll shows 86% of Americans think President Biden is too old for another term, compared with 62% who think Donald Trump is too old. The House GOP and the Justice Department are coordinating a time for special counsel Robert Hur to come publicly testify about his investigation into the president. That could happen as soon as late February or early March. On Capitol Hill, I'm Kayla Gaskins for the National Desk, America's News Now.
Thousands of rideshare and food delivery drivers in the U.S. and in the U.K. are on strike over pay and working conditions. Workers in the U.S. plan to stop giving rides today in 10 different cities. Lyft said it's always trying to improve employees' experience. Uber said it doesn't think the strike will have much of an impact on services. 3 South Carolina sheriff's deputies facing misconduct charges for allegedly making several fake emergency calls. An arrest warrant says the officers, all in their 20s, made 5 calls while on duty on February 4th, claiming there were dead bodies in several locations. The officers were released from jail on bonds on Monday and are now on leave as officials investigate. Federal investigators want better cockpit voice recorders on all planes. The National Transportation Safety Board says the Federal Aviation Administration should require planes to have recorders capable of up to 25 hours of audio. The current standard is just 2 hours. The FAA proposed the 25-hour standard last year, but only on new planes. The NTSB says current planes should be retrofitted. New York's Court of Appeals heard arguments today to overturn Harvey Weinstein's 2020 rape conviction. The disgraced movie mogul's lawyers want the sentence dismissed, arguing the judge infringed on the right to a fair trial. Weinstein was sentenced to 23 years in prison in 2020 and an additional 16 years last year for sexual misconduct. He maintains any sexual activity was consensual. Today is National Donor Day, and a father is celebrating this Valentine's Day with a new heart. Medical reporter Liz Bonas shares how a life-saving organ donor family made it all happen.
Hey there, everybody. After months of waiting for a heart transplant from his hospital room in the intensive care unit, Jamie Mahaffey, seen here with his family, told me he could not be more grateful for support, a generous donor family, and a medical team that saved his life.
My physical is getting better. My heart is pumping strong.
Jamie said on the way from his home in Ohio to Tennessee to Vanderbilt University Medical Center, where his transplant took place.
And my defibrillator just kept going off 42 times.
Which is why when I asked him how he felt about his transplant team, he could only say this.
Made life easier. There are some special people down here.
His wife Robin, his sister Renee, and Andy Johnson met up with us at Ohio's Life Center to talk to him. The center helps coordinate organ transplants.
Looking at God's hand in all of this and like all these pieces of the puzzle that he started moving together years and years ago, and seeing them come together for such a time as this has been amazing.
He's a selfless man, and I've seen him give to kids, to families, both of them. And not to say that we get a return for what we do, because that's not why he did it, but look at God's blessing, look at God's miracle, and I'm just so grateful.
So this would not happen without that yes. And so, it took a donor family to say yes to donating their loved one's organs. That has brought Jamie here today in this place, and the ripple effect that will have on his family. And so, as he said, there's no level of thank you or gratitude to just, this is what makes donation happen. This is how we pass life on.
To that family, Jamie and Robin have so much gratitude.
Not enough things in the world that I could do to thank them more.
Jamie now asking for those prayers and the support to continue. He needs to get strong enough now to leave the hospital. His family reminding us that all of us can sign up to become organ donors. You can do this online. Just be sure to tell your family your wishes. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonas reporting.
All right, Liz, thank you very much. And coming up, a new Oregon bill is pushing to do away with daylight saving time. What residents think about the proposal to stop tampering with the clocks. We'll be right back. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you. We are taking the pulse of America.
State Senator Kim Thatcher is now sponsoring Senate Bill 1548, which is trying to abolish daylight saving time and keep most of Oregon on standard time all year. Thatcher cited research from the medical community on the impacts that sleep disruptions have on a variety of health issues, including an increased risk of heart attack and stroke. The Senate committee then heard public testimony, with most wanting the state to just stay on standard time.
Permanent daylight time was tried before, and it failed. People need morning light to wake up and feel good. And if you like daylight saving time, I would implore you just to wake yourself up earlier and let the rest of us sleep later for health.
But about 20% want to keep falling back and springing forward.
We are much better off having 8 months of evening sun than having 0. So I beg you to do just like Washington did and defeat their permanent standard time bill.
Families have just walked away from other family members. And then when those people die, they're left abandoned at the funeral home.
It's a devastating reality across Washington. Why aren't people claiming their loved ones' remains? What are they telling you?
They just don't have the finance to take care of the costs. Sometimes there's been some falling out with the individual prior to their death, whether that's through homelessness, drug abuse.
The national average for funerals is about $8,000.
State law requires mortuaries to keep unclaimed bodies in coolers for 90 days.
It presents a lot of logistical challenges for us as a business.
Gaffney Group CEO Corey Gaffney says the existing law, combined with overburdened mortuary service providers, means cooler space is at a premium.
The signs are polished, tractors too, ready to welcome the masses from more than 70 countries to Tulare.
We are the #1 ag producing county in the nation, so it's only fitting that we host World Ag Expo right here in Tulare, California.
The 57th annual World Ag Expo provides a chance for farmers, growers, and ranchers to network, and vendors from around the world a chance to showcase their latest products, just like this global unmanned spray system, better known as GUS.
Coming up, the most popular Valentine's Day questions people are asking Google this holiday, and what people really want, chocolate or flowers. We'll tell you on the other side. Stick with us. In addition to Ash Wednesday, which marks the start of the holy season of Lent, it is, of course, Valentine's Day. And Google has released its most searched questions ahead of the holiday, with many people asking, what is love? Followed by how to love yourself. Others searched for what kind of gifts to buy for their loved ones, ranging from boyfriend, husband, wife, mom, and, of course, the kids. Google Analytics shows many in the U.S. favor flowers over chocolate. As for me, I'd take the chocolate. The darker, the better. That does it for this edition of the National Desk. We do invite you to join us again for this evening. More on America's top stories. Just check your local listings. I'm Amira David. Thank you so much for watching.